Hi everyone, it's Charlene. Thanks so much for joining me today. Today we're going to open up the new Simon Says Stamp card kit box and we're going to make some cards. This is the first card kit box I have actually ordered, believe it or not. I am very excited to see what's in it and to get started with some beautiful cards for the holidays. I know this has somewhat of a holiday feel to it just from some other videos that I've seen online. Comes in this nice box and bag so you can save everything together while you continue to make different projects. That first thing you're going to see there on top, that's the Positively Everything tool. Oh, and we have some hot cocoa and a little treat, a Charms Blow Pop. Those are always great for when you're crafting. It comes with some great sentiment strips. This is the Simon Says Stamp Thanks set. And we have 2 envelopes. Those are in soft navy and cream. This embossing folder is absolutely gorgeous. It's the Scandinavian Christmas embossing folder. I know I'm definitely going to need to use that. There is this beautiful berries and leaves 6x6 stencil that I'm definitely going to use as well. And it also comes with 6 sheets of Paper Rose Scandi Christmas double-sided paper. These are really pretty. You can see I'm flipping those over. Some of them have a wood grain, and then there's some with strips that you could use for borders or for behind sentiments. I really like those, especially when you are making some quick cards that you need to get out. There is an inspiration sheet that they include with some projects that you might want to try using the supplies. This is always nice when you're kind of in a brain rut when you're trying to craft. And then there's several sheets of cardstock. There's a 90-pound matte silver. There is a 100-pound soft navy, cream, and midnight green. And there is 1 sheet of 80-pound Nina Desert Storm. These are all really high quality, thick cardstock, so I will definitely be using those in my cards. And then the stamp set. Isn't that gorgeous? It is the Cozy Wishes stamp set, and it has all kinds of lovely things inside of it. I will definitely enjoy using this stamp set for all kinds of different cards. So now I'm going to bring everything back in. Look at that set. Jumping right into my first card here using the berries and leaves stencil. I've secured it down to my workspace, and I'm actually starting off with some white pigment ink from Simon Says Stamp. This is going to create a really lovely effect on the cardstock underneath, because then I'm going to come in with Salvage Patina, Prize Ribbon, and Villainous Potion, which is a new color. I'm very excited to see how it turns out on this card. This technique is really fun when you apply a white pigment ink and then on top of that you use distress inks. It allows the distress inks to pop on the colored cardstock. It's really beautiful. So I'm just going over, I'm using my Gina K blending brushes and I'm making sure I get a really good coating of that white pigment ink underneath. Once I get my stencil thoroughly covered, I'm going to come in with a paper towel and just wipe it down gently so that way I'm not blending too much of that pigment ink in with the distress inks when I come back over. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to actually pull up the stencil so I can dry my cardstock a little bit. So I want to make sure that the pigment ink is dry on there before I go in with my distress oxides. And I'm also going to slightly offset the stencil. So you'll see that hair coming up. You only want to do it just a hair. I think I do it by about 1/8 of an inch once I get it back down. And you can see right there, I'm pulling up the Post-it tape that I've put on the sides. Post-it tape is awesome. If you don't have any, definitely get some. It's fairly inexpensive and it's great for masking. It's also great to put on your fingers so you don't get ink all over your fingers or all over your image that you're working on. It's really nice. So when you have dried it, you're going to do that offset, like I said, and it's going to create this really lovely shadow. And you're going to see that after we apply the distress oxides on there. This is the Ranger Heat crafting tool that I'm using right now. I do have this and I also have a heat gun. I like having both. I think the heated tool works really well for drying projects, whereas most of the time I like to use my heat gun for embossing. The heated tool will work for embossing, it just takes a little bit longer and it doesn't quite melt as well. If you're enjoying this video, please do hit the like and subscribe button as well as the notifications, so that way you can receive notifications about future videos that I post. Now that I've got it nice and dry, I'm going to come back in and offset that stencil. My paper is slightly warped from all of the heat, so I'm going to add a little bit of extra tape to the stencil, and I'm using purple tape. This is a great tape you can see there on the side, and I'm going to use some in the center to kind of get my stencil down and get my paper down so there's not too much lifting while I'm going in with my blending brushes. First, I'm going to use salvaged patina, and I'm going to come in on the top right corner. Then I'm going to do prize ribbon in the middle, and I'm going to use villainous potion on the bottom right. See there, I come in with the tape right there. A lot of people ask about the blending brushes. There's all kinds of different blending brushes on the market. I have only tried these Gina K brushes. I know a lot of people really like the new brushes that have been released by Simon. So I would say whichever one you prefer in terms of shape and color, that is what you should go for. I like the white ones because it just kind of goes along with my aesthetic. So, you do you. Coming in with that salvage patina, this is such a beautiful color. I was so excited when the Villainous Potion came out because I really do like purple, and it's actually a color I forget about a lot of the time just because I don't see it in a lot of projects when I'm looking at other people's projects. So it was really awesome for me to see this new color come out and see all of the inspiration online with people using the new color. I was very excited for it to come in the mail. So it came right in time for me to use it with this project, and it works really well with the prize ribbon and the salvage patina. These are actually the 3 last colors that were released by Tim Holtz in Ranger. So I don't know if that was intentional, but they go together really well. In hindsight, I wish I had used more of the Villainous Potion. So if you are recreating this card, which you're more than welcome to do, I would use a little bit more of the Villainous Potion at the bottom right. It looks really nice, but it's just too light for my tastes once I peel off the stencil. All right, we've got all 3 colors down, so I'm just going to go back with essentially what's just remaining on my blending brushes so that I can get a nice blend in between the colors. The nice thing about using that navy cardstock as the background is that I don't have to do too much blending because all 3 of those colors work really well with the navy cardstock. Now for the reveal, we're going to peel everything off. I just love that effect. It's so cool. You have that offset kind of layered look. It just looks really nice. Now I'm coming in with 3 of the birds from the stamp set. There's several birds, and then there are also all kinds of little detail accents that you can add to the birds. It's a lot of fun. My sentiment is going to be in the center, and it's sending a cozy note, which I think is very appropriate for this time of year. I'm going to ink these up with Versamark embossing ink. You can use any kind of embossing ink that you have. And I'm going to put them right on. You do want to make sure that your panel is good and dry before you do the embossing. And you also want to make sure that you do use an anti-static powder tool before you do your embossing so you don't have the embossing powder sticking all over your cardstock. I like to use a folded piece of cardstock to pour my embossing powder over. I'm coming in with Ranger White Superfine Detail embossing powder, covering up my birds and my sentiment. I'm going to sprinkle a second layer on just so I can get a nice good coating. And then I'm coming in with my heat gun to melt those areas on the card. When you're heat embossing, you just don't want to stay in one spot too long. As soon as your embossing powder melts, you want to move on to the next area of your card. And then I like to do an all over kind of sweep with the heat gun. Now I'm coming in with the Simon Says Stamp Stitch rectangle dies, and I'm going to do 2 cuts. I'm using the largest rectangle die, and then I'm using one size down. So I'm starting out with the largest rectangle die. I am going to tape this down because I want to make sure to get a nice straight cut around the entire card since I already have my sentiment on there. You can die cut after you heat emboss, so you don't have to worry about that. And you should come in at an angle with your dies, not what I just did. I was kind of in a hurry, and you can see that my machine sort of moved all over the place. You're going to see a much better example of how you should die cut on this second showing. I'm using the next size down rectangle die. And again, I'm going to tape it down so I can make sure there is a straight sentiment when the card is done. When I run this through the die machine, I am going to run it through at an angle, and that's going to make it so that the plates can go in much more easily. You'll see here, not nearly as much of a struggle, and my whole machine didn't move all over the place. And when I take this out, I am going to keep both pieces. I'm not going to get rid of that outer frame. What I'm going to do on the card is I'm going to pop up the center and then have that outer cutout piece surrounding the center. It'll make more sense once you see it. I'm going to use the same die, and I'm going to cut out a piece of craft EVA foam. That is what's going to allow my center to pop up. If you don't have EVA foam, you can use any kind of foam tape or foam squares or dots to accomplish the same outcome. I just like to use EVA foam, especially for big panel type pieces like this, because I know then it will survive the mail. Now, coming in with my Simon Says Stamp dot runner, you also can use liquid glue to do this. I just grabbed my dot runner because it was what was closest to me. And I'm going to first adhere my panel to the craft EVA foam. And in hindsight, I should have flipped my panel over and put the EVA foam on the panel, because then I could see and line it up much better. So I do have a little bit of overlap of the EVA foam, and it's really a simple fix. You'll see in a few minutes I come through with my craft scissors and I just trim off the extra foam around the sides. Now I'm going to go ahead and get my frame layer ready. You do want to adhere that to your card base first, so that way you can make sure that everything is straight. And this is going on a US A2 sized card that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'm using a top fold card, but a side fold card would work well for this. And now I'm just making sure that I have the same spacing on all sides of my frame. Once I like what I have, I'm going to go ahead and put that down. And now this center panel part is really easy. I can just pop it right into that negative space, and it's going to create some really nice dimension for the card. So now I am going in and trimming the EVA foam on the side there with my scissors. The nice thing about that foam is it cuts really easily. Once I have that off on those 2 sides, I'm going to pop it into the card. After that, I'm going to apply some embellishments, and I am going to go in and use some Wink of Stella on the birds, but we are really close to being done with this first card. Really love how it is looking. It's very clean and simple, but at the same time, it really pops with all those colors and the dimension. I'm using my Gina K Connect glue to apply the embellishments. I've picked out several of the berry spots that I'm going to put the embellishments on. These are Trinity Stamp, I believe, matte silver embellishments. These are great for the holidays. And my glue kind of went a little bit crazy here. You're going to see on some of the spots that it's sort of oozing out around the embellishments. The nice thing about this Gina K Connect glue is that it dries super clear. You can't even see it when everything is all said and done. It's not noticeable at all. When I'm applying embellishments to a card, I like to try and stick to odd numbers. I also do that when I'm picking out stamps that are small. So you can see I used 3 birds and then I used 5 embellishments. For whatever reason, and I learned this when I was learning how to do some floral designs, the human eye just really likes odd numbers. All right, we are moving into our second card. This card is really fun. I'm going to go at super speed here just because it is a fairly long video as it is, and it takes a little while to do watercolor. But you can see I have stamped the little mailbox and the bird, and then I stamped the envelope with the heart for the bird to hold, and then I used the happy birthday stamp. I thought this was fun because there aren't a lot of stamp sets that cater to both this time of year and birthdays. So this is, I think, kind of nice if you have a friend or family member that has an October, November, December birthday. I think they would really enjoy receiving a card that kind of matches the season. So I'm coming in first. I came in with some festive berries and I used that on all of the little berries. And then I came in with some candied apple, which I used on the bird and hearts. And then I used some of the festive berries as well to shade. On the leaves, I am using mowed lawn. And on the small leaves, I am using rustic wilderness. And then I'm also using the rustic wilderness to kind of come back in and shade the other leaves. Watercoloring is so much easier than you think it is, so I would definitely give it a try if you haven't already. I'm using a water brush pen, and I'm using a little mat from Waffle Flower, which works really well. I am cutting this panel out using those same stitched rectangle dies from Simon. Once I have it lined up, again, I'm going to tape it. I don't often tape my dies actually, but on these, since they are being cut out with sentiments on them, I want to make sure they are nice and straight. And again, you can see this time I came through at the angle like you should. Going to pop out my panel, and then I'm going to come in with that beautiful Scandinavian Christmas embossing folder. I knew I just had to get this into one of the cards. And I'm using a piece of the navy cardstock. I'm coming through, and for my machine, it works really well to use the platform, the embossing folder, and then 2 pieces of cardstock as shims. Bring that out, and oh, it's just so pretty. I love this embossing folder trend right now. It is wonderful. Off camera, I did apply glossy accents as well as some white gel pen to my leaves and to my bird. And now I'm just going to wait for those to dry. Here we go. Here's our finished product, guys. I'm so excited about these cards. They came out so beautifully. I hope you like them. I hope you'll try them. I hope you'll share with me over on my Instagram at DreamCraftCreate. And I hope that you will give watercoloring a try if you haven't done it already. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you will give it a like and subscribe, as well as hit that notification button so that way you can receive videos in the future. Have a great day, guys. Bye.